Libyan protest motion says it'll step up its marketing campaign. Tripoli Libyan protesters will keep demonstrating until all the ruling elites give up electricity, they mentioned on Saturday, after rallies in maximum most important towns on Friday culminated in a crowd storming the parliament, constructing and torching components of it. The protest motion stated it might step up its campaign from Sunday, urging demonstrators to installation tents in city squares and training civil disobedience until they acquire their aim of ousting political establishments and conserving new elections. Security vehicles surrounded government homes in the capital after sundown on Saturday, and there has been no signal of new protests after Friday's rally's traumatic change. Protesters had held their largest rally in Tripoli for years, chanting slogans in opposition to the feuding political elites, as demonstrators blocked off roads in Benghazi and Misrata and set hearth to authorities' homes in Sabah and Karabuli. We affirm our determination to preserve the direction of peaceful demonstration until the closing breath to reap our goals. The Beltree's Children motion, which is broadly speaking centered on online activism over dwelling conditions and changed into Behind Requires protests in 2020, stated through social media. It mentioned it'd occupy town streets and squares until all the ruling political our bodies announce their resignation in public. The fact that protests are occurring throughout the country shows the developing frustration of Libyans on both aspects of the principal political dividing line among Eastern and Western factions that were at conflict for years. Scheduled national elections collapsed in December, leading rival political factions right into a standoff over manage of government that has pushed Libya lower back in the direction of war while public services have deteriorated. After the failed election, the Eastern-based House of Representatives Parliament said the interim government of Abdulhamid al-Dibeiba in Tripoli turned into not valid and appointed Fathi Bashaga as top minister. Dibeiba has refused to cede power, but, and some other legislative frame, the High State Council (HSC), has rejected the parliament's movements. The Parliament and HSC leaders held talks in Geneva this week, however made no leap forward. Friday's protests were to start with known as over persistent energy cuts. Dibeiba mentioned overdue on Friday that each one Libya's political institutions must cease and hold elections, something maximum political leaders have mentioned for years without making the compromises needed for a vote. Parliament Speaker Aguila Saleh condemned acts of sabotage within the protesters' assault on the parliament constructing in Tobruk, saying it changed into punishable by means of regulation. United Nations Libya Venture Chief Stephanie Williams said protests were a clarion name for political classes to place their differences aside and hold elections.